Okay, let's start. I start with as we have done. This is the third task force we do in 2021. The first one was on agriculture. I think one week ago, two weeks, around 10 days ago. A few days ago, we did a task force meeting on sustainable tourism, but in reality we talk about energy and mobility and water for the island resort of Maldives with the government of Maldives, and this is the third task force. So let me share one moment my screen. As in my introduction, because especially as we are really at the beginning of this innovative methodology of working, because many people has been trying to ask us anyway if we place ourselves as an industry association of the association of governments, and because we are in the middle in reality, because our goal is to facilitate government, utilities of islands, and industries worldwide to talk in order to originate project. And in fact, just to recap, you see here a very, I hope, clear slide where which is our end goal anyway, to bring Ireland in a position where they are in the sustainable transition and support the island to accelerate the sustainable journey until, of course, the best point possible with the available technology on the different sectors. So energy, water, mobility, waste, agriculture, sustainable tourism. And of course, our tools are the observatory, the global index that is a tool to measure where we are in the journey, where the island is in the journey, giving a score in an island. We have, of course, the webinars and the e-convention where many of you have been participating. We have the academy, the app, and so on. The structure of the observatory, for who is new, and apologize for who, of course, know very well from last year, is very simple. We have an island advisory committee, which is made by the representative of islands, government, utilities, etc., and a strategy scientific committee represented by the global institution, scientific institution like Irene, like a Global Water Partnership, like the Global Industry Association, and so on. And we have the goal is the Islands Advisory Committee to address the island needs, having the Study Scientific Committee to transpose the needs in the activities of the working groups and the task forces. What we have done as the initiative started late last year, to make this structure to be more understandable, we started a bottom-up approach. So we started with the task forces, and in fact, some task forces, 5 already active. The one with EUROBAT is on storage and smart grid. We talk about policy, regulation, technologies. We have another one on floating offshore wind power with a focus on Mediterranean with Wind Europe. We have the one I mentioned before on island resource with our partner is the government of Maldives, as we have we want to bring Maldives as case study. We have one on agriculture, sustainable agriculture in small islands, where we study of the sustainable way of cultivation, and also the link with energy and water, no, and for supporting the island agriculture. Here we have 2 partners: the Association of the Chamber of Commerce of the Islands, of European Islands, and the ICT, the Istituto Tecnologico de Canarias, which is very an excellence in technology on the islands. We have another one which is very linked with this task force on water is on desalination combined with the hybrid power systems, together with the Global Solar Council and IDA, the Global Association of Water, and probably GWEC will join. And this will start in April. We did a webinar last year. New task forces are starting, the one on bicycle policies and business models, on wave energy technology and trends, and maritime transport and port electrifications. That is will start in late in the second Q. What is the goal of the task forces? The goal is, of course, to do lobby for a better legislation. Like, in fact, in the first part of this meeting, we'll talk about the European directive on batteries, and of course, bringing the point of view of the islands. And the other part is to have an update on technology, but also to, and let me say, not also, one of the core, one of the main topics is to, in the discussion, in the roundtable we are going to have in the second session, to identify projects on some islands considered as case studies. In this way, we are starting with Menorca and Gozo/Malta. Maybe in the course of the year, maybe another island could join. And our idea is to identify a project, let the government, utilities, and innovation provider association and GTI technical, of course, experts to discuss. And this project, of course, that are identified could be done, financed, because makes sense anyway financially to start. Of course, they could follow a process of tender or from the utility, from the government, etc. But some project could be very innovative and can be eligible for European funds. Or in this case, as in this moment, we are all European, but it could be also a non-European island, and we could apply for World Bank, ASEAN Development Bank, etc. This is an example, is a project, the Maisha project, that we as GTI, we contribute to put together all the partners for is a project, Maisha Geographic Island H2020, that we did win last year. Is a project for 4 years of 12 million budget, 9 countries, 21 partners, and is a project that where most of the money, of course, will go to one island in this case, but in other case could be the other. But there will be follow islands, and so there will be a budget also for other islands to replicate what will be implementing one island. So this is an example, of course, of a very, very good goal that we would like to achieve. Just a few highlights, because we could end up to apply our index, global index, to the case study island. The global GTI Observatory Global Index is an index that analyzes the CO2 emission, but the project done, the project in pipeline, and on all sector, energy, water, mobility, waste, and environment, and give a score to each of the sectors, and also an overall score of the island. This is a way of tool, as we said, to monitor where an island is and what are the action that the island need to take in order to, of course, improve the score. This is an example of an application. These are only a small chart, but of course we develop a full report where you can see this case of Helgoland that we published because it was a very good score, was of course 4. You can see have a flavor, let me say, at least from the chart, of how the index works, and with all the different gaps that the island has. The convention will be the end of the 2021 work of the task force. At the moment is foreseen for the second half of October. Maybe I will ask then Graziano to say the dates because they are very recent. Last year was a very successful event after 6 events moving in an island. Last year was the first digital event with more 700 participants, where the task forces just established, organized. I have to thank here again EASE and EUROBAT, very good, very interesting webinar inside, which is available, is video recorded, etc. And of course, we're trying to bring the results of this year work in the new convention, where we expect to have more than 2,000 people, I mean, islands, between islands and island stakeholders. The awards is something that could be linked also with the task force, because in the awards we are trying to let me say, collect best practices on all sectors I mentioned before, and we have a jury that will be the same more or less of last year. Jury, very important jury from Irene, European Commission, UNESCO, FAO, and Insular, and so on. This is the conclusion. Of course, it's been very difficult to organize this meeting. The next meeting probably will be in a couple of months, but we have an app that allows us, this task force, to continue talking on the outcomes of today. Is an app that you can download from your smartphone, or you can go through your desktop, and there is already a forum created, like a WhatsApp forum, where you can enter and debate, continue, conversate in a professional way, and not in your sharing necessarily your mobile number. These are some of the observatory members. Others are joining us, and our goal is to have in the task forces to have as many members, islands mainly, attending from all over the world, attending this meeting to learn from our discussion and outcomes. Okay, I'm done, and I'd like then to give the floor to our partners on to start the session 1, which is the policy regulation part. So Francesco and Jacopo, Francesco Gattiglio from EUROBAT, that I explained before, is the European Association of Producer of Batteries, and EASE, which is very complementary, is the European Association that joined all the anyway storage system companies. So I give to you the floor, Francesco and Jacopo. I don't remember who of you, and thank you a lot for make this meeting to happen. Please.
Thank you very much, Gianni, and good afternoon, everyone. So I will start sharing my presentation. Yes, presentation mode, so you should be able to see it.
Yes.
So I will start already with the presentation on the batteries regulation, which, as you might know, has been proposed by the European Commission, and it will have quite an impact on our sector. So let me start with the timeline. The publication of the proposal dates back to 10 December 2020, so we already had 2.5 months to assess the proposal. And trust me, it was needed because this is really a complex file. We have now until the 1st of March to comment as stakeholders, and we will, of course, submit our contribution. We then expect quite a swift approval process. The Commission would like to have it approved in 1 year, but I guess that's not really realistic. More realistic timeline, you see it on the screen. We expect that the Council and the Parliament will adopt their own position in the course of this year. And then they will have the trilogue, so the negotiation between Commission, Council, and Parliament probably in the first half of 2022. The final publication of the agreed proposal, we expect it sometime around the mid of next year, or even the second half of next year. Now, a bit more on the content. So why this proposal? Well, first of all, because the batteries directive is quite outdated. It's from 2006. And at the time, lithium-ion batteries were not even a thing. So it really needed to be updated. Then we have now a regulation instead of a directive, because the Commission felt that the directive was leaving too much room for interpretation for member states. So it's better to have a regulation, also because we are talking about products to be placed on the market, so which are generally regulated through a regulation. Then why now, and why with this force and strength? Well, because batteries are of strategic importance, and there is really the understanding that Europe must produce these batteries, with a specific focus for lithium-ion batteries for electric mobility. But in principle, the focus is on all batteries and on all applications. And there is clearly a link with the European Battery Alliance in this sense. However, the Commission also looked at sustainability, because they are saying that we need to produce green batteries made in Europe. So the green and the made in Europe part both need to be considered. So production needs to be sustainable, and we need to achieve competitiveness through sustainability along the entire value chain, so including raw materials, production, performances, reuse, and recycling. Now, just a few key EUROBAT takeaway. I put only 4 here. We will produce our position paper, which is much more extensive, but for the sake of timing, I focused here only on a few points. So we think that it has a good approach in general, because the regulation considers the interaction between chemical management, environmental protection, and industrial strategy, while the previous directive was really only focused on the waste and end-of-life management part. But there is really a high administrative burden, and for us, but also for market surveillance authorities, because they will have to check the compliance of products. And there is an issue of compliance, because everything will need to be certified. You cannot test a battery to check, for instance, recycled content. So there is an issue of compliance of batteries imported into the European Union. Another key takeaway, the approach on hazardous substances. The regulation is actually creating a new parallel process to restrict substances. We see this as a pure duplication of REACH, and this is quite a concern from our point of view, because of course we want to have one process to restrict substances, not 2. Then, and this is probably really the cornerstone of the proposal, batteries for electric vehicles and industrial batteries above 2 kWh will have to comply with minimum standards to be placed on the EU market. So it's effectively a ban of batteries which are considered as not green. And these requirements will be on due diligence of raw materials, on performances, on durability, on recycled content, and on carbon footprint. In this sense, we see and we regret the fact that actually the regulation doesn't really consider the diversity of battery technologies and applications, because in most cases they just took the battery for them, so the battery of an electric car. They laid down some requirements, and they just assume that those requirements are valid for all batteries, which is, of course, not the case. Now, moving to focus on one specific article which has really an impact on Ireland. That's the Article 70 on green public procurement. So according to this article, contracting authorities, therefore also the public authorities on islands, shall take account of the environmental impact of batteries over their life cycle. So whenever an island or a public authority in general will produce a tender for any product containing battery, they will have to include technical specification and award criteria based on 4 articles, 7 to 10, which are the articles on carbon footprint, on recycled content, on performance and durability. Which means effectively that for public authorities, you will have to take into account a bit more than the normal market rules, but you really have to focus on environmental impact of batteries. So we'll move to my last slide because I really wanted to keep it short. So what do we mean when we refer to these requirements, and what is the timeline for this? So here we are talking only about batteries, industrial batteries and electric vehicle batteries with a capacity above 2 kWh. So it doesn't apply to every battery. The approach of the Commission is to have a 3-steps approach. So first, you have a declaration. So we as a manufacturer have an obligation to declare the carbon footprint of batteries as of 2024. As of 2027, we need to declare the amount of cobalt, lead, lithium, and nickel recovered from waste in these batteries. And 1 year after the entry into force, we need also to declare the values of electrochemical performance and the durability parameters. Then, and this applies only to carbon footprint, we will also have to include a label to indicate the carbon footprint performance class as of 2026. And then the thresholds will kick in with different dates. So we will have a maximum carbon footprint threshold as of 2027. As of 2030, and then as of 2035 with higher targets, we will have to include a minimum share of recycled content in new batteries. And as of 2026, we will have minimum performance and durability values to be placed on the EU market. Now, considering that we are talking about green public procurement, most likely the threshold for you, for public authorities will not really apply, and you will really need to look at the front runner. So the award criteria will have to be laid down so that the best batteries in class are selected for a green public procurement. The Commission will lay down the criteria to select the award criteria later on. However, from our point of view, it's a very good thing to have the declaration to provide information so that consumers, customers, and also public authorities, of course, can make the best possible choice. We are a bit more hesitant on the threshold, above all on recycled content and performance and durability, because we think that this might really have some negative consequences. But I think that for what concern islands, it's already very good to have the declaration and to have the right information about the batteries that you are going to use. And I would like to close here. Of course, there are many more things to say about this regulation, but in the interest of time, I would give the floor to Jacopo to talk about other parts of the regulation.
Thank you, Francesco. Indeed, as you said, it's a very broad topic. So for the interest of time, I'm gonna focus on specific cases, maybe interesting for islands, provision that may be important for islands. So as you said, there are key provisions regarding sustainability and safety, performance and durability, and end-of-life management. So if we see in the case of, for example, the latter, at the moment we have the challenge of not a complete set of rules. We see that in different countries there is different obligations, and we see barriers that make it challenging to make it a business case for recycling. Not only for, we also have to keep in mind that there are a wide array of battery technologies, and therefore quite different challenges from technology to technology. In the case of islands, this fact that there are additional regulations that overlap on the already significant amount legislation on the topic of batteries makes it even more complicated. For example, here we highlighted the waste treatment regulation, which adds another layer. And moving forward, we also have the question that if we want to promote specifically Second Life, it might be tough because there is limited space to do dismantling, to do all the activity related to handling and transport. Is quite a challenge for islands. And the activities for recycling, you need to have economies of scales. And in the case of islands, again, it might be tough to create a strong business case. That does not mean that islands still have the opportunity to do some activities, that it can be the testing, it can be the disassembly. But Francesco highlighted it, I think, well in the first part, and it's part of the presentation. There are bureaucratic burdens that are challenging for economic operators, and of course there is the matter of costs. In general, Second Life batteries are an opportunity, though, for islands. We already see that some of them rely on such solutions to be self-sufficient, to be energy islands, and therefore off the grid. We highlighted here the case of Pampus Islands. And maybe in the future, the Second Life batteries will have maybe a stronger business case, because as we see right now the regulations, we will have the opportunity to have batteries repurposed and put into the market following the legislation provisions of when they were produced. Therefore, not the newer, maybe stricter, maybe with more red tape provisions, but the older ones that that allow, therefore, to make it much easier to repurpose a battery and put it into an island. So yeah, the takeaway point for this part is that there are clear legal provisions if the battery regulation is introduced as it is right now, and there is some new incentives for Second Life batteries. Of course, I just mentioned there is a significant checks that are foreseen for Second Life batteries. So again, this is quite a challenge for an island to be able to follow all the regulation, but still we think it's an opportunity, and it's something that needs to be done for also ensure the safety concerns. The safety concerns in the context of islands are need to be properly addressed. We think that the EU legislation right now in the context of safety and batteries introduces some interesting provisions, but in general it's paramount that there is the involvement of the islands, the involvement of the stakeholders. It can be the firemen, it can be the operators of battery storage facilities in islands, and in general also within EASE we're trying to developing guidelines in this sense to facilitate the policymakers and the decision maker in islands to operate. As I said, there will be quite new instructions, quite new indications on how to handle batteries, look into repurposing of batteries. So again, I think that on the horizon there is positive changes. Here I put an extremely long list of the provisions for which storage system tested. I will not go through all of them. The important part is to say again, there is some challenges that are particularly important for batteries that those who are willing to take up Second Life battery solutions will need to accept, to face. So to conclude, I think this my intervention, I think, as I said so far, there is both a set of new challenges and new opportunities, new incentives, new economic incentives, I will even say, It's a challenge for an economic of states, but it's an opportunity to, again, empower citizens, try to, have stable energy systems within the islands, and yes, to do so at keeping having energy transitions that is cost effective. Thank you, Gianni. If you want, I give it back to you.
Thank you very much, Jacopo. Thank you very much, Francesco. Very good overview with an island focus. And now is the time for, anyway, some questions. But the first, just to break the ice, is mine anyway, regarding the position paper. No, we sent before the directive, the publication of directive. Do you think, anyway, can we keep something anyway and submit before the deadline? The deadline, when you said, is can you recall, just to be
Monday.
sure? Sorry?
Monday. So
okay.
It's Monday, but I will say that in general, as now quite significant power will be given to the European parliaments. We have MEPs that, of course, come from islands, to put it very, very bluntly. So they will have the opportunity to see what's through the paper, what's the new regulation or what the new provisions that are foreseen by the Commission, what's going to be the impact for their country or for their islands, for their community. So absolutely, it can be something that they will probably the policymakers definitely deem valuable.
Thank you. So I would like to open the floor if there are questions from the participants. Also observers, if anyone want to make any comment. Miquel or Karl or Gattiglio.
I think from now everything it's clear. I found it interesting to know which are going to be the most important KPIs, such as the carbon footprint or the recycled content and the performance for this new regulation. I didn't know that, but everything has been explained quite well.
Yes, very good. They've been good. Any question for your side, Karl or Gattiglio, please?
I agree with Miguel, and everything was explained quite well. And there is much more to consider and to investigate on the directive and how it will affect us as an island. But yes, the presentation was very well done.
Very good. Very good. So also Davide, I don't know. Yes.
Oh, yes. It just came to my mind. Is there any indication for the battery manufacturers on how they disclose that carbon footprint of the production process? So we know that every step of the production, even the shipment, produces CO2, and that's of course contributing to the carbon footprint of the final product. But is there any indication, or as of now they are? I mean, the idea is to keep it free, and then every battery manufacturer, every industry, do it by its own with its own system and so on.
Nothing is not regulated. Let me put it like that. So the Commission will work on a methodology by, I think, June 2023 on how the carbon footprint shall be calculated, so that everyone use the same methodology and there are no real differences between the methodology and the carbon footprint of one manufacturer and another one. And then the result will have to be communicated through a label that will have to be placed on the battery, and also included in an online database, so that you can always access the data on the battery and find out what is the actual carbon footprint of that battery. there are actually different proposals on different databases. That's one problem that we see, because there is a bit of duplication of databases, but it's clear that you will be able to access that information online, and you will have it in the on the battery. Sorry.
Very good.
Okay, thank you.
Any other comment or? Questions from anyway? Is I forgot to of course there will be time for introduction, but anyway, we had I will have from the agenda this perfect surname, but we had the Menorca and Malta intervening, plus of course Davide Brillo from PXiSE Mitsui. Very good. So we are practically in time, as the technical part will be also very intense, and maybe we can come back on the regulation also in the roundtable. And as a regulation is very so connected with the project implementation and so on. But of course, good news on there is room for islands opportunities from this directive. So we will need to continue to stay behind and see the evolution. So having said that, I would like maybe Francesco would like to show please the agenda, just to recap the agenda. So we start the session 2. Thank you very much. Francesco Luisa is our technical coordinator of the GTI Observatory. So after this presentation and Q&A, we start the session 2. Unfortunately, Mr. Zammet is not well, and so he did send the excuse to the table, but fortunately we have a representative from Malta and Gozo, Manuel Sapiano and Karl Galea from the Minister of Energy and Water, and so they can at least, even if not taking the place of the utility, but of course talk about some challenges of the island. So I'd like to start with the presentation of Miguel Edo from the Consell Insular de Menorca, the technical department. Miguel, the floor is yours. You can make your presentation.
All right, thank you very much. Let me just share my screen first. As I believe you should be able to see the presentation now. Am I right?
It's coming, yes. So you can put a full screen so we can see better.
Yeah.
Very well.
There we go. All right, so well, good afternoon. My name is Miquel Garcia Edo. As you said, I'm working in the Island Council of Menorca. And I'm gonna try to go quite straight to the point, but first I'm just gonna make a little bit of an overview of the strategy that Menorca has been developed for his roadmap towards decarbonization, and then we're gonna go right for the storage part, which is the strong component of today's meeting. And I'm gonna talk about our approach, the objectives that we have for our energy storage systems, and then the challenges that we are facing, and as you said, which are the things that we think that you can help us with. We're going to close up with the next steps that we have in that sense. So as I was saying, the Island Council of Menorca, along with all the entities that you can see right now in the screen, have developed this Menorca 2030 strategy, which is a roadmap to decarbonize the island system. It includes many different topics. We would like to just remember you that you have full access to the whole document in this presentation, and it includes, as I said, many objectives, but one of the most important ones, because it's very ambitious, is that in 2030 we want to be able to produce 85% of our electricity demand with, let's say, renewable sources that come from the island. Furthermore, we want to reduce our land transport. We want to reduce our fossil fuel consumption in our residential and also primary sectors. But going again to the first objective, this 85%, this includes photovoltaic, solar photovoltaic power plants. It includes wind farms, and it includes as well a number that, as I want to share right now, we have as a top, let's say as a high limit, but we are talking about 400 megawatt hours of electrical storage capacity with a 100 megawatt charge and discharge power. We expect that we can actually reduce this number with further studies, but so far we have it as a conservative number, because when we make our models run, if we want to have 85% of energy produced by renewables, we need quite a lot of storage. Also, we need to interconnect ourselves with mainland, which we are doing right now. We need to enlarge this interconnection, but we're going to need a lot of electrical storage. So, talking about our strategy regarding storage, we are focusing on 3 lines of action. The first one is large-scale stationary batteries close to the existing electric substations. Also, those ones would be close to the renewable energy generation plants that we already have and the ones that we have projected. The second line would be smaller batteries associated with photovoltaic generation plants, but especially close to domestic generation, so a little bit more focus on self-consumption. And the third branch would be the storage that we could actually use from electric vehicles. Right now you can see some orientative numbers of the magnitude of the capacity and the charge-discharge rate that we want from these 3 lines of batteries installed. Then the objectives for these storage systems are, first of all, maximize the renewable energy generation, or which is the same, to minimize the curtailment from those technologies. The second one would be a function of regulation and control of both the frequency and the tension, because we know that with intermittent sources, you can suffer from security of supply or also security in your frequency. So we would like our storage systems to be able to cope with those variations. And the third goal would be to actually have a black start mechanism in the case that we have some problem of total loss of supply. Some years ago, we had a huge problem due to storms. So there were power cuts for quite a lot of time, and we would like to aim to be able to create that black start mechanism. Going for the challenges, we also have identified 3 challenges. The first of them is regarding system integration. So there are many different types, brands, models of storage, and also of electrical storage right now in the market, and we know that it's hard to choose the optimal ones. We usually know more about the synergies between solar and electrical storage, but since we aim to install around 16 megawatts of wind power, we also would like to know a little bit more about synergies between electricity generated with windmills and electrical storage. The second one would be how to integrate future trends. We know that storage is a sector in constant development, but we actually don't have the resources to keep on track of all the developments. So for us, it would be nice to have some assistance on how to include these future trends, these new future technologies that are gonna enter the market, and how to make actually an accountant of the technical and the economical risks of using these new technologies. And the third challenge is regarding the software, the tools that we're going to need to control and monitor and actually optimize all this storage that we want to install. We have some names in our head, but we humbly recognize that we need more information on it, and not only on the systems itself, also like how to be able to learn these tools and how to be able to even transfer this knowledge to the future technicians that are going to be in place using them. So finally, for the next steps for Menorca, the things that we are actually focusing on the moment is searching for fundings, fundraising to be able to basically put in place this roadmap that we have not only in mind, but we have actually already on paper. And one example, it can be that right now we are giving some manifestations of interest to receive money from the funds that are going to create it to solve or to be able to stabilize the crisis of COVID. The second one is that we are collaborating in European projects to, for example, the Insular H2020 project. And the third thing that we're focused on is that we're looking for partners and other entities that we can actually exchange information, knowledge, and experiences, and be able to move forward together, and to even create consortiums to make proposals for new projects. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you. Very good presentation, very good overview, and of course there is in the last slides there is room for this task force trying to help, of course. So I don't know, is I'd like of course if there are odd questions for Miquel before we move on the real roundtable, and we ask of course the representative of Malta also to give also some input in the roundtable. I don't know if there are odd questions for Miquel before we move on.
Maybe I will go. Miquel, thank you for your presentation. Again, Jacopo from EASE. So I saw your slide about the system integration and the different technologies, and of course it will be interesting to maybe if you could slightly more elaborate on what was the process, or if Menorca is already, if you're already looking into what kind of solutions are you considering. And maybe I also, it was a very small image, but I was surprised that there was maybe by the absence of power to gas. And I was wondering whether it's a decision because you see that there are technologies and or vice versa. Yeah, what the rationale there? Thank you.
Well, first of all, we already started studying some technologies, but we've mainly focused on electrical storage in batteries, and we know there's actually a lot more on the market. So maybe it could be interesting for me to show you which ones we have actually started looking, because this is already inside our strategy. But as you will see, it's mainly electrical storage in the form of batteries. So just checking quite fast. Yeah, exactly. Here you can actually see. So that would be nickel-based, lithium-ion. Well, this one, and also in the form of electric vehicles. And those are the ones that we have actually studied a little bit more. And the second part of your question, I think that you were making reference to hydrogen as a source of storage. We have actually thought about it, but there has not been any major, let's say, consensus on it. So I could say that we are still studying it, but it's not yet ready to make a full proposal.
Okay, thank you very much.
No problem.
Davide, I saw that you had.
Well, thank you very much, Miquel, for your presentation, and best of luck, of course. But I really hope that the presentation of PXiSE will give you an idea of what we can do. I think it perfectly applies to your situation. You will see, and we will have time, of course, to deep dive the topic. Thank you. Maybe it's too soon to say, but thank you, Gianni. Thank you, Angelo, to let us join the task force, because I think it's that's the right place for us to show what the company can do and where what's able to do. So see you in a couple of minutes when I will show you.
Davide, I don't know if there are other topic, or as we have a round table afterwards, Davide, profit, and maybe you can open the round table with your presentation.
Yeah.
Please.
Oh, shall I start now?
Yes.
Okay, so actually that was the addressing your third challenge. Okay, Miquel, that's where the solution of PXiSE could be very interesting for your project, but for any other project, of course. Okay, so let me share my screen and a very, very short presentation I prepared alongside with PXiSE team. Let me see. Can you see my screen? Let me make it clearer. Is it maybe bigger now?
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Okay, that's good. Okay, so actually I'm Davide Brillo, so nice to meet you all. I'm a project manager at Mitsui and Company, Italia. So I'm based in Milan. But today I'm a speaker at the task force on behalf of PXiSE Energy Solution. So it's written PXiSE, but it's pronounced PXiSE, and it's a company, grid control technology company, leader in the market. You may not have heard of it because the main market now are different than Europe. But it was established in 2016 from Sempra Energy. Sempra Energy, you see on top, it's one of the leader utility in US, in California, based in San Diego. And from 2018, PXiSE is also has also entered the Mitsui and Company ecosystem. Mitsui and Company, for the people who don't know us, about it's a Japanese conglomerate with very different interests. One of it, of course, is in ICT, and that's where it comes from. Our investment in PXiSE. So to give you just in a nutshell a few information about PXiSE. The PXiSE has more than 100 years of experience in the software and the grid control and in the systems, all related to the utility, to the power grid. It's even if it's or if it was born in 2016, it's a proven technology. So the technology which has quite an innovative approach. They already manage more than 700 megawatts of projects across the globe. As I mentioned before, you may have not heard about it because main markets now for PXiSE, in which PXiSE is present, are in US, of course, or North America. Very nice project in the islands of Maui in Hawaii. the Australia, and the Far East with Japan, of course, with the support of Mitsui and company. It was much easier to enter Japanese market. And of course, it's a blue chip backed. So behind PXiSE, there are two big companies, two big groups, Sempra and Mitsui. And just to give you a hint, it uses synchrophasers to have a much more fine-tuned control of the grid. So I will show you later. The goal here is to have a much faster control of the grids and the parameter of the grids, so without using SCADA, which is pretty much the standard today, PXiSE relies on synchrophasers. So what actually PXiSE does? So it can support the transition from a centralized grid with one-way power to a more dynamic, more complex, and more demanding high-speed grid. That's what actually PXiSE does. So it can function in different way. You can deploy PXiSE you see this this cloud in the middle, and below that, these are three applications of PXiSE. So power plant control, microgrid control, and the DERMS, so distributed energy resources management system. And here, this is pretty much what can do. So using the unique technology and synchrophasers, they are able to be much faster in giving response to the grid. The power plant control is the easiest application, let's say that. So that can be easy for you to understand. And it fits perfectly with the renewables resources. But of course, in cases of islands, we can see that it's much more, that the situation is much more complicated. So you have not only a power supply, but also power consuming units. So you have a storage system, you have EVs, and then you have other power consuming units. In that sense, PXiSE is really making the difference. Because it really can act very fast, and it can really reduce the curtailment from renewable resources. That's pretty much it. And then the value added of PXiSE is that it doesn't really need any it's all software, so it's OSI soft Pi based. So Pi is a platform for data gathering, and PXiSE actually works on Pi system, and thanks to Pi technology, it can work very fast. So it's 60 hertz, and that speed allows PXiSE to be so much efficient. So that's I think very interesting technology. So the brand, the product, let's say, that PXiSE uses, it's called ACT, Advanced Control Technology from PXiSE. So I think that we can talk, of course, with the different for different projects, from power plant, for microgrid, and for DERMS. That could be a nice, good solution. And that's pretty much it. Thank you for listening to me.
Very good, very good. Thank you very much, Davide. No, at least you gave a flavor, and maybe in the debates somebody could ask some question. Going to anyway, I would like to start the roundtable, and maybe Karl, Galea, no, you could start spending, if you like, some words about Malta and Gozo. Unfortunately, we do not have the utility for some, of course, healthy reason, but maybe at least you can give a flavor of what is going on in the islands. Anyway, I don't know, Karl, if you would like to Otherwise, otherwise, I open the floor, no, to Gattiglio and to intervene. And yeah, there's Karl is here.
Hi, I've just been joined by Manuel.
Hi, Johnny and
Hello, Manuel. I don't know if you had a chance to see the previous presentation, but anyway, there was Menorca, anyways, playing some challenges. The representatives from the governor of Menorca. So I, as discussed, I do not expect you talk on behalf of the utility, but at least if you can give a flavor of the main challenges on technology, also regulation, as there are also the two industry associations, Manuel here on battery and storage. Anyway, maybe it could be the best floor, please.
Yeah, no, basically I will give an outline to what we're looking at. First of all, let's say, I wouldn't say only Malta, but most of the islands were not technology developers. So basically we look at uptaking technology and looking at considering technologies as these become more and more, let's say, market viable. With storage, we're looking at two aspects. In fact, I'm coming from a press event where we have launched new schemes to support households for household size storage to accompany photovoltaic cells, and where government will be supporting these at around 75 to 80%, depending on the cost. So there's let's say a massive support to for households also, so that first of all we can look at households storing and using the energy which they generate. That helps also in peak shaving, but also with a small grid, as we are in an island, there's limitations on how much you can increase renewables, even the localized renewables, unless there's investment in storage. It's not just let's say the more easily considered aspect of if there's photovoltaics and there's a cloud over them, but there's also voltage aspects related to let's say to the outlay of renewables which need to be addressed, and therefore we're trying to move into that aspect of related storage at household level, encourage it, and trying to move households to increasingly invest in a photovoltaic system complete with batteries, instead of just photovoltaics, as was the case. In fact, I would say that the support for a photovoltaic and battery system with the schemes of today would go up to something around €6,000, which I believe is a strong message to households to move towards these new systems. We're also supporting retrofitting of existing systems with batteries, so both on just batteries or batteries and inverter. That's one aspect of let's say what we're looking at, but we're also looking at the possibilities now of large-scale storage. In particular, to support also the possible or let's say the potential projects into large-scale renewables, in particular offshore. Offshore wind or moving the offshore source. So we're exploring also the possibility of large-scale battery storage. It's still at a conceptual level up to now, but it's one of the priorities under, let's say, the development plans for the coming 5 years, 7 years actually, under the it would be under the regional development fund. So one of the priorities for Malta, one of the priorities which we're pushing for Malta, is actually also large-scale storage at utility grade. And we believe that this is needed to permit, let's say, the flexibility is necessary to move into large-scale renewable projects, and without storage, our ambition to move towards the 2050 decarbonization targets are definitely a non-starter. So it's a process of, I would say, change. Obviously, as I said in the beginning, we're a technology taker, so our path usually is a bit lagging behind the path of bigger countries who host the technology developers. But standing as today, these are the considerations which we're making, and therefore seeing realities on other islands, seeing realities in other small-scale situations like ours, what the reactions are is very important, because even it gives you a feel of what your considerations are correct and what issues have happened in areas where such installations have been made. So what's the feedback, and both the positive and the negative feedback, and that would then help to fine-tune what we're doing. I also, from the concept notes, there was an emphasis on, let's say, on the end of life for batteries. So what happens after the battery stops? So when you need to change the battery. Once more, one constraint which I would see is that, and this usually happens with a lot of types, so let's call them wastes. The volume does not justify the development of facilities in Malta, and therefore where we need cooperation agreements, possibly with Italy, which is our nearest neighbor, but also exploring other options on how the life of batteries could possibly be extended in other applications. So there was also, it's an issue which will come up, but you don't, let's say, good planning means that you don't tackle an issue when it comes up, but you try to think about it as things go along. That's a brief, I would say, overview of, from my part of, let's say, Malta.
Yes, Manuel, it's been very good anyway, at least to give an overview where you are, and yes, this is the right moment to move on. Attilio, I don't know if you would like to comment on what Manuel said right now, and also on Menorca.
But I was very impressed about the plans that Miguel has for 2030. So just a curiosity, and can you explain, because I don't know what is the starting point? I mean, where are now in terms of development of renewables, or in terms of, let's say, already facilities you have in place for storage and so on, just to understand what steps you have to do, you know.
In terms of storage, we are really green. We've mainly focused on renewable generation. So we started already, I don't know how many years ago, but we already have quite a lot of solar, and we have a little bit of wind, which we want to upscale quickly. I don't know if you have been able to check which are our goals, but right now we have more than 50 megawatt of solar photovoltaic, and we have just 3.2 of megawatt of wind. But we're gonna probably in 2-3 years have at least 10 more megawatt of wind. But in terms of storage, we don't have anything big centralized, and apart from storage in let's say domestic usage, there's nothing yet that I know in that sense.
Oh, okay, thank you. Just because I was thinking, because from point of view of policies, you probably require a different approach in terms of what you're going to do for citizens and so on, domestic storages, and what you're going to do at the central level. And yeah, I was trying to understand what was the situation, just to see what you have to do for the future, you know. Okay, and yeah, fine. Thank you very much for the explanation.
Yes. Any comment on what has been just said by Manuel Sapiano on Malta and Gozo?
Yeah, maybe I would like to make a comment. First of all, I think it's interesting what you said, that islands are not technology developers, but at the same time, it looks like Europe wants us to be like leaders in energy transition, and sometimes this makes things a little bit confused. And then I had a question for you. I don't know if you had the number in mind, but you were talking about subventions on batteries between, I think I heard 70 and 85%. And I was wondering how that usually impacts the payback time for the final user. Usually when you do like a photovoltaic project, you have a certain payback time, and it looks like you're promoting solar plus storage. And I don't know if you know the payback time once you offer this pack.
Yeah, in fact, we try to peg our payback times something between 5 and 7 years.
With the storage?
With storage, yeah.
All right.
Now, obviously, in the coming years, the trend will be for the price of batteries to go down. That's what one expects, at least that's what one is seeing. So definitely, then the schemes are, let's say, recalculated each year and trying to keep that 5 to 7 year payback period ingrained. So these are schemes which are renovated each year.
Thank you.
Very good. If there is any comments also from the observers, you can just raise the hand, and yes, you can yes.
In the meantime, if I might have a question for Miguel, actually 2 questions. If in your renewable energy target you considered a target also for energy efficiency, so the reduction of the actual consumption. And the second question is, what is your plan about public transportation and how to make it more sustainable? Thanks.
I'm going to start with the second one, because the first one actually I haven't been able to understand. But just doing one-on-one, for public transportation, we want to electrify the bus lines, and we are already including this in one of the interest manifestation of interest. I don't know actually the correct translation in English, but one of those things that we're telling Europe, hey, we are interested in to receive money for that in that sense. And yeah, basically we want to buy electric buses, mini buses, and shuttles, and put away the ones that we are using right now. Then the first question, sorry, it was?
First question was related to energy efficiency. If you already calculated a reduction of the energy consumption that you have today, and so if you have calculated your target based on that, or still you still analyzing it?
No, of course we have a targeted reduction in CO2 emissions, and also we have an expected usage of electricity for 2030. I don't have the numbers in mind. What I do know is that there's a project to target homes, so to make some rehabilitation of buildings to increase energy efficiency. At this point, I don't have the exact numbers on mine, but I could come back to you with them anytime.
Thank you very much.
Very good. Any other question? And Manuel, I would like to encourage eventually, as there are the 2 industry associations on battery and storage anyway, if you have any question on regulation anyway, could be also an interesting point. if you have any question or on that matters as well.
Thanks, Gianni. For now, I would say for now, no, but I'm involved, Karl, because from the energy unit is also following, let's say, these aspects, particularly with respect to the broader grid integration. And following this meeting, we'll discuss, and then we'll get back in following meetings.
Yes.
And now has also an overview of what's happening at greening the islands.
Yes, yes, very good. So, Attilio, if you may help me anyway, and trying to, if we can, because we'd like, I understand it's not easy, no, to design or to think, as we did in the last task forces. We tried to conclude the meeting with some priorities, no, focus in terms of. I'm thinking about Malta, Gozo, and also Menorca anyway. If we would like to identify anyway where to focus on our work, also because we managed to have some actors in these meetings, but not all. We'd like to have some, of course, had some problem, as you know, but we can, as Green the Islands, try to involve what is needed, no? And I would like to encourage Malta, Gozo, and Menorca to anyway address to all of us anyway where we should focus our efforts anyway, and also which stakeholders we should include in this group of people anyway. More storage producers, also for the benefit of our industry associations that represent all the industry, or anyway, what would be, what is your suggestion for this task force to be more helpful, which is this is our goal, no? To support you anyway with your goal, your transition, where we should focus our effort anyway, starting from Menorca, for instance. You had already in your chart, you gave some highlights, no? But would like to try to be more specific, Miguel, maybe, and on which kind of actors, where would we should focus our effort in this task force?
It's not an easy question, and actually I thought that maybe well, the person sitting next to Karl, Galea, might have a little bit more of experience, and he could answer first if he's okay with it.
Yes, for sure, Manuel. I don't know if you feel comfortable, but really we are here to, in fact, of course, these task forces are not to promote what is good, because if you are here, I believe that you are really committed, no, to the transition. But we are here to really help and involve in this task force who is missing eventually, or anyway addressing who is present in the task force, in order to bring more anyway expertise on the table. Anyway, here we have the industry association, there is one company as well that might involve also, no, Davide, also other technicians, no, on the table from US, etc. But if we can give some direction in terms of regulation policy, in terms of technology, anyway, what we should be our focus.
If I might jump in, I think that Miguel did a great job finding which are the challenges that they are going to face. Mm-hmm. So finding the right, for example, technology they would like to deploy, or to be able to be, let's say, technology agnostic. So to create a system that even in the future with different battery storage system, battery storage technology, it will work anyway, even more efficiently maybe. And having a system, controlling system that is reliable, that's of course another good point. So first of all, finding the pain points in the energy transition, I think that's the first goal. And in my opinion, Menorca is doing it very well. Probably that's the first step.
Thank you, Davide, for the highlighting. Coming back to Manuel, no, and Karl. I know it's not easy, no, it's a big question, but anyway, where we should focus anyway in this task force? What is your suggestion to make it more concrete? And
one aspect is, okay, sometimes we discuss, let's say, directives which are taught for the European context, so the broad context. However, what are the real challenges for their implementation in an island? So how will they affect the islands? What are the key points to pay attention to? So as I said in the concept note, there were these aspects of the end of life of batteries. Now, the requirements of the directive, one of the discussions can be, yes, let's now transpose those to an island. What will be the impact? What frameworks do we need in place? What regulatory approaches will we need in place eventually? So it's trying to discuss on the experiences of building up the structures to address then the implementation of the directive, but also the achievement of good practice as well. So it's not only just the implementation of a directive because it's a directive. So what's the best deal for an island, and how it will let's say, how will the outlook on islands be affected by the entry into force of these directives? Sometimes this is also important because, let's say, Malta is a member state, and therefore sometimes even in negotiations we're directly involved in the negotiation of the directive itself. However, it's not the case with the other islands. So therefore, first of all, I think it's an information flow of what's happening.
Yeah, if I may summarize, so anyway, as you said, how to implement this directive anyway, what is the best approach and at local level, let me say, and what does it mean for the island, what are the implications, no, of for the island? Yes.
Exactly.
Yes. I don't know if the Industry Association would like to comment on that, or Francesco.
I can expand a bit on it. So if I think about the specific case of Malta, I think and on islands in general, I think from all the new measures on production will not have much consequences, because at the end of the day, as far as I know, production of batteries in islands in general is quite limited. So in general, it takes place in the mainland. There are some consequences, of course, on the green public procurement, as I was explaining in my intervention, and these are generally positive, I think, because public authorities will have more information about the type of batteries, and hence they will have more elements to select the most appropriate storage system, if we are talking about energy storage, for instance. When it comes to recycling and end-of-life management, we really need to think about what is the impact on island indeed. Generally speaking, there are no recycling facilities on islands because, again, you need to have the scale to have those plants. So practically speaking, all the batteries that you collect will have to be stored somewhere in the island in a safe way, and then they will have to be shipped to the mainland. Therefore, you will have to take care of the storage because you have to do it properly, and on the shipment. Now, I think the main problem is actually the cost of that shipment. We cannot do much, and the regulation cannot do much on the physical cost of shipping the battery, because I mean that's a cost that will remain. what the new regulation can do and should do is to facilitate the administrative part. So to facilitate all the administrative processes to ship those batteries, because those are hazardous waste in most of the cases. So that there are quite complicated procedure generally to ship them. However, the regulation can start to address that point, but it will be the waste shipment regulation, which will be proposed, I believe, June this year, that we really have to address that point. But I honestly think that this is a very important point for islands, because that's a very practical point. So that's something that perhaps as a task force we should try to address and discuss it with, for instance, with members of the parliament. I don't know if I answer your question.
Manuel?
Yes, it was these practical aspects which I was looking at. So, because these are the different implementation aspects which will come with islands, and which most of the time are forgotten when, let's say, the discussions are on the European center or on the European average. Yeah, it's also about systems of, if there's going to be a cost, who's going to pay for the cost? The taxpayer, or there would be charges up front? If there's going to be charges up front, how they're going to be managed? There's costs to manage that. There's these practical aspects which come with improved regulation. Mind you, the improved regulation is needed because it leads to positive aspects like the protection of the environment, which agreed. But then in practice, what does it entail in an island different from other areas? Yeah, the very important consideration which you made is about the fact that batteries are hazardous waste. Yeah, that's a problem.
I think a key problem there is actually the definition of producer, because it's the according to the regulation, is the producer who has to cover the cost of recycling, transporting, and taking care of the end of life of the battery in general. The problem is that it's not so clear who is the producer in many cases, meaning I can give you a practical example. If we as a battery manufacturer produce a battery, we sell it to a car maker. The car maker sells it to a user. Who is the producer of the batteries? The battery manufacturer or the car maker? The problem is that in the current directive, the answer is it depends. It depends on which country the battery manufacturer is located in. It depends on which country the car maker is located in. It depends where the battery is actually placed on the market. So from our point of view, this is really an unclarity. And we need to clarify this in a very simple way. So we need to decide, okay, who is the producer? Who needs to cover the cost? That's a must for us in the new regulation.
Yes, very good. Gattiglio, I don't know if you have any comment or also Jacopo. Yes, please, Gattiglio.
No, Gianni, I have no comments.
Yes. Jacopo, any comments from your side?
No, I think Francesco was very good at highlighting a bit.
Yes.
The
so
challenges.
anyway, you made a very good point, Manuel. We need to stay behind in in this task force, of course, on the implementation of the directive, which is especially for the island. That is a very important point. And maybe Miquel, and I don't know if you follow this path, but maybe in the next meeting you can also involve some colleagues anyway, if yes, to have also conversation on that side.
Mm-hmm. I would like to do so, and I will promote it. And I think what Manuel said, it's very true, and that's something the task force could help us with. Another point that I was actually thinking about, and it might not be directly related with storage, but that's something that we certainly need help on, is maximizing our possibilities to receive funds from Europe. So when we are creating those proposals, we have some knowledge on it, and we've actually managed to receive several ones. But any help that we could receive on that sense would be desirable. So I don't know exactly in which how this could materialize, but that's something that would help us, let's say, maximize the possibilities to reach our energetic goals.
Yes, Miguel, this is a very important point. I stated at the beginning anyway. To have some receive, of course, some funds for some project that could be a project that could involve more islands. Just the example I made before of the project Maesha was a 12 million project where there are involved utilities, government, and companies, so innovation provider, etc. Anyway, our goal is this one, or in reality of our main goal here, also to design some project ideas, innovative project, and if we cannot do in this moment today, I would encourage you to come back to, of course, to try to engage on one side on Menorca and on Malta Gozzo, also the utilities, and maybe for the next meeting, try to have a starting point of where we could start working to identify some innovative project. Because we are, as Green the Islands, we are monitoring the calls that arrive, and for sure there will be another. There will be other calls like the Horizon 2020. There is, of course, the new program beyond 2020, and we would like to get prepared to apply for this call, and not when the call arrive. As you know, there are a few months to present the proposal. So if we don't start in advance, we won't be ready, to have really a good proposal. So I'd like you, of course, I talk about the islands, but of course, I talk about, of course, I told to the PXiSE on one side, and also the industry association with their members, try to get some ideas, to put on the table in a way that this is was the first meeting of 2021, but let's try to arrive to the next meeting already with some exercise on we will continue with the regulation part, but we want to continue with the technical part, try to design some so we can have a more technical session to design some potential project. And we will come back. Maybe there will be some news on upcoming calls where we might apply in that sense. And sometimes there is another point. We might have some special guests in this task force, maybe somebody from the European Commission, presenting also some programs or calls that might come. And this has been done in our webinars and conferences, but can be done also in this kind of meetings, asking the proper people, and this could be done together with Francesco, with EASE EUROBAT. What do you think, Francesco and Jacopo, on this approach? Might be invite somebody from the European Commission also to explain what is coming in terms of new calls, because we are going also beyond the age 2020, right?
Yes, indeed. The framework is much longer than that. I think it could be a good idea. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, also from my side.
Yes, actually, there are $1 billion on the environment, that are coming for all Europe, and our goal will be to interact all these funds, but get prepared in advance, and not when the call is already published, because we won't have much time to be competitive eventually in creating a call. Okay, so I think we can we don't need to utilize the full 2 hours, but I think we can do a wrap up, of our session, the first meeting, which is not easy, as you can imagine, and because we are putting together different bodies, it's like we are used to be or in the history on the government or regulators or utilities. So you have at least the flavor of the potential, as of this task force. So I'd like to conclude with a roundtable for a last remarks from all of you on the next steps. Anyway, if you agree on my proposal, and also what is your proposal? Who would like you to involve as well for the next meeting? Yes, Miguel, maybe you can start.
Well, just saying that I think it's very interesting to be here. I would have liked to be in the first one this year. And for the next one, I don't know who else should we involve, but we should definitely come forward with some already more narrowed down ideas to present together. For us, it's extremely interesting to partner with Malta, Gonzo, or other islands that might be facing the same challenges that we are. And we are willing to cooperate with them and to come up with fixed ideas that suit both as well.
Thank you very much, Miguel. From your side, Manuel and Karl.
The idea of trying to go into to explore the possibility of projects is interesting. We've used this model in the water sector, where we've been in projects which bring together islands to discuss and develop water policies, and with pilots, with pilot projects. That can be an interesting opportunity. Also to get, it can be a carrot to get other islands on board, other administrations, but also the layout of the observatory with having let's say industry associations, that creates an interesting mix for a consortium, where you've got the let's say you've got the know-how and administrations. Possibly also one could look at involving academia. It's not just Horizon, but we could also look at Interreg funds. So we don't know what the priorities for Interreg Med will be. Yes. But it could be an opportunity for if there's a project opportunity where we can develop a partnership through our discussions here. So that's something which could really be interesting to look at. Also because, let's say, then it creates the resources to not just speak, but also to do something tangibly.
Yes.
I think that's a very good proposal to explore further.
Very good, Manuel. I'm sure anyway, maybe Norman will be with us next time. The utility, the same, Miguel, if you can encourage again the Endesa that was in the last meeting. Both of them, actually, they were in the last meeting and also the webinar. They couldn't this time, but anyway, the utilities will be very welcome. And as you said, Manuel, the academia, anyway, we can involve also some universities, but also in a potential idea of a consortium could be very, very useful. I know, Miguel, that you have been cooperating with the University of Valencia, and Manuel, maybe you can think about Malta as well. That have the academia on board could be very, very useful indeed. And Davide, a final remark from your side?
Well, I gotta thank you all, of course. First of all, GTI to participate to the task force. I think this is the first time, so this is the first year PXiSE joined the GTI. So but our goal now is to show what PXiSE can do, and of course the idea of Manuel to create a consortium of industry players that can actually deliver the right answer to your challenges and to your requests, that would be a great idea. PXiSE, I think, proved that technology in many chances, many occasions, especially for islands. That I'd be happy to show the use cases of Hawaii or Maui and other in Far East Asia. But I think that the idea of a consortium that of course we cannot deliver the entire package for solving all the problems you are facing. It's almost impossible with one player. But the consortium, it could be a nice, good idea, I think.
Yes, I'm sure the industry association can. Anyway, they are already trying to involve some players interested in within the association to join in this task force, and also eventually for a consortium. And sorry, I mentioned when I was talking about Menorca. And of course, we have Industry Association European, but or we have also National Industry Association. I know that UNEF is attending this call as well. The Solar PV Association from Spain that has been very active in Menorca, and they are very, very welcome. Elena, if you would like to say something, you are welcome. And otherwise, we continue with the roundtable. Attilio would like to do Elena, please.
Hello, good afternoon, everyone.
Yes.
I didn't mean to interrupt because it was my first time to join you, because normally who attends is Jose Donoso, I think, and yes. he couldn't join you today. So I was paying attention of everything you were saying. It's quite interesting. I think there is very high opportunities in the islands, and we can focus and develop the photovoltaics plus batteries for self-consumption and distributed energy. So it's a pleasure to be here today.
Yeah, especially when we talk about also regulation implementation. It was one of the questions today, how to implement locally, the directive. Anyways, the industry associations, the national ones, can also help a lot. Anyway, UNEF is very, for Spain is for sure very strong. Attilio?
Gianni, I think that these meetings need to try to understand problems and then think about and find possible solutions. So the observatory is the idea to put together same problems and try to find solutions for these problems. Because having an overview of most of the situation of different islands in different parts of the world and different policies. Our work is the only thing we can really do in a real good way is to try to put all together, to try to give suggestions for right policies and give suggestions for right solutions. And so I think that this is what we can do time by time, trying to put together experiences. And this is what we have to think about and then continues giving advices.
Thank you very much. Yes, Angelo, and if also from your side, any final remarks?
Oh, everything has been mentioned. I just want to underline the fact that we are trying to invite as many solutions providers as possible in order for you to have an overview about the storage possibilities and the smart grid possibilities. So, and not only in the island will participate, not only at the European level, but also at the global level. It's possible to do also other projects where we have European islands and other islands around the globe. And it's possible to replicate the results that we will have in these case studies also in other islands with other solutions. Of course, every island has to have a customized approach. Every island is different, and yeah, we are here for that.
Thank you very much. So our partners, now to conclude, EASE and EUROBAT, anyway, I absolutely like the idea, of course, also of the consortium for projects. This is one of the interesting part as well. But what's your recommendation for the next steps, Jacopo and Francesco?
Absolutely, for the consortium, EASE are involved in a few EU-funded projects on the topic of islands. Regarding other participants, I think it's regardless of whether we're gonna focus on the policy or whether we're gonna focus on projects, I think it could be important to get someone from the Commission, for example, involved on the topic.
Thank you very much. Francesco?
Yeah, I agree with Jacopo. I think that the way forward is quite clear. It would be very good to have the Commission involved, and I think that really having the angle of the islands and think about what will be the practical implementation of the batteries regulation and of other measures in islands might really be the thing where this task force should be focused on. So I think there is some work to do indeed.
Very good. Thank you very much. I encourage all of you. I know is for us in Greedy Islands is still anyway. We have developed a web app, which is also an app that you can download from the smartphone, and we have created a forum where we can continue debating before the next meeting. So at least we can create a group. We will send you an email, a link with some tutorial how to use this app. But it could be nice if we could continue talking in the app and not wait a couple of months before to have a next step. But we can prepare anyway a debate without limiting the number of emails through our web app anyway. But you can start downloading Greedy Islands from the App Store or the other Android, etc. Anyway, or you can go through our website. There is a direct link to the desktop, and you can go through your computer. Thank you very much. I think it has been, as being a first meeting, has been the icebreaker of the 2021 task force, and we will keep you updated, and we'll send the minutes and also the recording of this session will be available for the task force. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
Bye. Bye.
Bye. Bye.